We're live. I'm Seb 3.0 wishing you happy holidays. 2023 was insane for Cosmos, but can the ecosystem keep up this momentum, break out of the crypto nerd niche, and attract more developers, products, liquidity, and users? So joining me to look back on 2023, of course, and make some predictions about what's next in store, I've assembled a stellar panel here today. We have Farmer, who is my favorite Cosmos degen and CEO of DeFi Dojo Validation. He represents the retail investor, all you little guys. Steven, the calculator guy, founder of DeFi Dojo. Cryptocito, which everybody knows. And Sam Hart, head of product and strategy at Skip. So, what's coming up in 2024 for Cosmos? You got to stay tuned to find out. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe, hit like button, and like this video to get notified when I go live every week. And remember to stake with Interop Ventures. We're validating on Evmos, Quicksilver, and a few other networks, Osmosis. Cosmos in 2024, that's coming up next, right here on the Interop. GM, how's everybody doing?
Hello. All good here.
I'm good.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Thanks, Seb.
Yeah, well, thank you for making it. I mean, doing a podcast on December 29th isn't always easy because like people are busy, they got family, they're traveling, and so you guys are really showing up here to do this. So I appreciate it. And I think everybody who's watching here will appreciate it as well. So yeah, I mean, how's everybody's holidays so far? Any interesting things happening, or what are your highlights for 2023? Anything you want to share?
I can maybe start. Yeah, I mean, I think, the 8 weeks ago, I think the state of crypto was much different. Like everyone is still like, Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything's going to be very, very sad for us. We all have to confront our families with this crazy crypto year, everything that happened. But I think, things turn out to be quite well towards the end of the year. I think especially Cosmos. Like in the past couple of weeks, I got a lot of inbound. I'm sure all of you guys, a lot of people are now curious to learn like what's kind of the next big Cosmos play, the next big Cosmos narrative. And people are really doing their homework now on this whole app chain thesis. I think Cosmos is very unique in many things. So it's a bit more complex to understand. There's not one base chain that you can invest all your money and kind of capture the whole ecosystem. But I think there's a lot that's coming, a lot of big launches. I think Celestia was one of the highlights also in the past couple of months, and Sane Network also going to the moon right now, so that's nice. But yeah, the holidays, I think for me, being chilled, just here, my C2 HQ in Dubai. Nothing too fancy, just chilling and kind of recovering from all the travels. Also, it's been a lot this year. But
Nothing fancy about Dubai. Nothing at all. in that shack of a town.
The thing in Dubai, like you can obviously do like crazy fancy stuff and bling bling Lamborghinis and everything, but you can also live a very normal life here, right? And I'm just at home, like for Christmas we just made some or ordered some food to just eat at home and stay in, and it's actually chill vibes here. So yeah, I think you who has not been here yet should definitely come visit, and maybe next year there's gonna be plenty of reason to come here for Cosmos people, so who knows.
Dropping some alpha? Are we dropping some alpha here?
I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll look out for that. Yeah, Sam, how's your holidays going, and what are your highlights? Your 2023 highlights? I mean, this could be personal, professional, sort of ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a really nice Christmas. I was mentioning before I went to Paris for a couple days because my girlfriend was there for work, so we just stuck around and did some very like cute things alone in the streets in Paris.
Good place to be.
It was not super restful, so I'm excited to actually get some, get a break for a moment. Yeah, I mean, hard to summarize 2023. I just like macro, it feels like most of the year was kind of defined by like increasing like despair and like self-doubt, and then only in the last couple months, a month or two, with people like, the market's picked up. And I had a lot of conversations with people that this was like their first cycle, and it was like very psychologically, challenging for them. It was my first cycle where I was like, you just need to push through and like go, have some conviction. So that was an interesting experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely things seems to be turning around, and we'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, maybe Stephen, any interesting highlights for you in 2023? I mean, you're a self-proclaimed yield man and wielder of a calculator. So what's your
I won't
outlook on this
say
year?
self-proclaimed. It was DeFi Dave from the Frax ecosystem who called me a truffle sniffer, but for yields, and I've adopted that name ever since. But it has been an incredible year in yield. So during the bear market, funding rate arbitrage sort of got us, my community through. We were getting, between like 10 and 30% APR on delta neutral yields, and that was like the best thing ever. We were so happy to be getting that because everyone was risk off. People like Farmer were accumulating really, really intelligently. So well done him. Great job on that. But then last 2 months, we see such an influx of volume, and volume brings yield, and yields have just been skyrocketing. So like if you go into IBC, like Osmosis is a great example. What was it, the first airdrop? I think it was the T airdrop was the really big one, brought so much volume to Osmosis that yields were just like popping off everywhere left and right. That was fantastic. So love to see volume, love to have high fee tiers when there's volume. Right now, funding rates have also skyrocketed. So one of the things that people are doing that's really exciting is like funding rate arbitrage, but not just that. It's delta neutral airdrop funding rate arbitrage. So it's like all of these fun components put together. So for people who are risk off or don't understand IBC yet, they can participate in all this great IBC stuff and also participate in like the securitization of these chains by delegating, while also, being risk off if they want to be like, if me, I'm totally risk on. 100% of my portfolio is long right now because that's the my current perspective. But for those who don't, you can get paid like literally between 50 and 100% APR. I have a spoon, 50 and 100% APR to be delta neutral and be like staking your TIA, staking your DYDX, staking your Atom, staking your Osmo. Well, Osmo, not quite so much anymore since Levana is going through a bit of a time right now. But yeah, I mean, yields have been great. It's been a really good time for strategists. And when those numbers go up and when the asset number goes up, I think we're all sort of happy.
Definitely risk on at the moment. Also, I can definitely say that we're also very risk on at the moment, whether personally or with the fund. Yeah, Farmer, how about you? How's DeFi for retail? How's DeFi doing for retail right now?
Well, I think it's better than ever. And Cosmos DeFi vision is coming together in the way that we've been talking about for years and hoping it would come together. I think especially Cito, like over the last couple years, it's just been like, build in the bear market, stay positive, go to conferences, buy the bottom, and then like it happened and it was perfect and it worked, and that was the right strategy and the right thing to do instead of sort of getting mad at the world and yelling on Twitter all day at people. It didn't make a lot of sense. So I think my highlights for 2024, I think Injective is number one. I think Injective has been the strongest in the market for the entire year. It's been up only. And I think that the shift from retail from Injective to Injective's ecosystem is going to be one of the most exciting things in 2024. And then obviously Celestia and Say. Say had a horrible launch. It seemed like the community kind of turned on them and they weren't happy with the amount of airdrops they got or whatever it was. And I'm super happy to see them turn it around right now before the end of the year. It's looking great. Osmosis had a crazy year. It's really good to see them keep building and building on what they've switching from to concentrated liquidity and done a lot of other like really stellar moves that are going to be incredible in the bull market that people weren't really paying attention to in the bear market. And then DYDX as well. I think it's been incredible for the ecosystem. There's been a lot of FUD lately about the unlocks, and I think it's just a perfect time to accumulate DYDX. And like Steven was saying, you could go on DYDX and go delta neutral, earn free DYDX tokens, stake them, and then get USDC as staking rewards, and then go and use that to delta neutral again. And it just creates this like DeFi infinity loop where you can just go on forever. And so there's just incredible opportunities everywhere.
I concur, sirs. Incredible. Well, I mean, if I can, on my side, it's been a pretty eventful year as well, like on a personal level, but also professionally. Obviously, like we went all in interchain and launched Interop Ventures and announced the launch of that just a couple of weeks ago. We're still fundraising and have started deploying capital in some early stage projects, but also in liquid tokens, just because there's such an opportunity right now to capitalize on the way the markets are heading. And so we're very bullish on the interchain ecosystem, and we've definitely felt as we were sort of fundraising throughout the year, also increased interest in the interchain ecosystem, whether from the perspective of sort of OGs, right? Like investors within the space and investors outside of the space that, when I say the space, I mean like sort of the interchain or Cosmos ecosystem, a lot more interest for Cosmos, and people are definitely like paying attention. So it feels like 2024 could be like a pretty important moment for Cosmos. And yeah, that's what we're betting on, right? I mean, that's the whole thesis at Interop Ventures. So
maybe to add one thing here, like what you really saw in the bear markets for the past 2 years, I think Cosmos got specifically hit with the Terra collapse, right? And UST was the main stable coin on Osmosis, right? A lot of things were affected from that. But I think it did two things. One, it kind of has proven the app chain thesis to work. And two, it also kind of redistributed the entire ecosystem, right? Because now you see a lot of these X-Terra projects coming back as individual teams or individual chains, right? And I think you mentioned Lana, they're going through some things right now, but you have Mars Protocol, you have Terra itself that's kind of repositioning itself, and a lot more. Prism is launching soon. White Whale, right? Like you have all these smart teams being now fully IBC aligned and kind of having their own kind of vibes. And obviously Kujira, they've also been killing it and have this full stack DeFi product suite, which is also really cool. And I remember I think it was just shortly after Terra collapsed. I think I did a Twitter Spaces with Billy Rennekamp, and also I think Jake was on there, and they were both like, man, we're actually kind of looking forward to a phase where the market enthusiasm and euphoria is kind of cooling off a little bit, because that gives us time to build. And I think you have really seen this in Cosmos specifically. I think also in Solana and other Ethereum, of course, and many others. But I think specifically in Cosmos, you have a very, very strong ecosystem of builders and developers, that are just so committed. And they actually, I think, took the bear market to advance, to improve, to see how we can reposition ourselves, our chain, our tokenomics, right? And also kind of anticipated what's the next thing, and then be there when the bull market comes back, right? I think there were also a couple of teams maybe and projects that did not make it through the bear market. Obviously, financially, it's been insanely hard for, I guess, all of us, to be honest. But yeah, I think that's kind of what you're seeing, right? And Injective and Celestia, like them kind of pumping so hard, I think it's just also the result of the builder spirit in Cosmos, and the hard work that's been done throughout the past 2 years, paired with a lot of things, narrative and VC relations and all these kind of things. But it's good. I think Cosmos is coming out of this very, very strong as an ecosystem.
Yeah, I went back and listened to part of the episode we did last year. Sam was there, and we were talking about things. So we talked about obviously like privacy. We're also, I think at that point there was a lot of concern about regulation because FTX had just collapsed, and Terra, etc. We were talking about the app chain thesis and the modular thesis and whether or not those were complementary. IBC expanding into Ethereum and other ecosystems. DYDX had just announced that they were going to do their own app chain. Shared security was not live yet, and sort of we're still reeling from the drama of Atom 2.0. And Atom was at $10, which is not that far away from where it is now. But just to kind of give a perspective on what we were discussing last year, I feel like 2023. Like I'm writing a post right now that we send out to sort of investors in our community, and the main thesis of this kind of like 2023 retrospective is that 2023 was a year of narrative validation. Like we validated all of the narratives that we had been talking about from like 2022 and onwards, and those are replicated security going live, getting a USDC stablecoin in the ecosystem, DYDX launch, and sort of validating the app chain thesis and showing that app chains are actually useful for certain types of applications that require full control over the entire stack. Celestia launching and perpetuating us into the modular era. The DeFi ecosystem also becoming really mature, and specifically, I think the UX component in DeFi, and sort of like the UX that we get in Cosmos DeFi, that's so incredibly amazing, compared to some of the other ecosystems. And I'm thinking, for instance, of Ethereum, and so the sort of like competing with the sex level UX in DeFi, I think is like a narrative that's been validated in 2023 as well. So those are the things that I've been thinking about. What are the other sort of narratives that you guys think we've validated in 2023, or are there any other sort of notable things that come to mind?
I think I could talk from the retail perspective, and I think that those of us who were here in kind of full-time Cosmos at the end of the last bear market, like Atom never broke out of its range against BTC. And like, although like we had some awesome like Cosmos pumps, like Juno was cool, and like Osmosis, and like so a lot of cool things happened, it really felt like Cosmos never reached its like kind of full maturity, And so I decided I'm going to spend the entire bear market on Cosmos. I think that will be the thing next year. And I'm really surprised in the last 2 months to see the rotation from Solana to Cosmos, and how like Cosmos has become like the second biggest narrative, I think, in crypto culture. And so like, I think that's, in big part to like Cito and going on like a lot of the huge like major shows and like putting all these like new awesome projects out there. And from the development community as well, people seeing what is possible and what they can build in the app chain world, and how good the UX is and how cheap the fees are. And so I think we can just look forward like to an incredible 2024 from like a cultural narrative perspective, and how many people are going to want to join the Cosmos ecosystem. And maybe like Sam, you would be able to talk about like how many new users came into Kepler like the day that Celestia launched, and all these different things. But it's been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I only have like a vibes-based understanding of how many new users, but it was a massive wave, like orders of magnitude increase in volume and like new wallets. I had a couple other things. One, this was like the year of bad kids. Like we actually
breakout
NFT, and and there was kind of like a, I don't know, Bad Kids did a lot of work kind of like carrying the ecosystem spiritually, I think. And it actually kind of broke out of Cosmos itself. You know, like a bunch of the Flashbots people got Cosmos, and like Lido folks got Cosmos, or Bad Kids and NFT PFPs. So that was really cool. I have interacted a whole bunch with like Ethereum researchers in the EF, and like this was a year where like there was some tacit acknowledgement that like Ethereum was adopting the Cosmos like architecture. So I heard on numerous occasions like, you know, the best ideas in Ethereum like are just taken from Cosmos, you know, so that could be cast in like a pejorative light, but at the same time, like it does kind of substantiate Cosmos as like this thought, you know, community of thought leadership. And I also have like a couple call outs. So I think, Cito, you've done an incredible job speaking to maybe a slightly more mainstream audience. I'm super thankful for a bunch of the Blockworks folks who just took like a personal interest. Like that's the only way I can describe it. They're just like, they got kind of nerd sniped by Cosmos and then started covering it more. And I think that had like a lot of knock-on effects.
Yeah, your episode with Ethan there was really great. I listened to it recently.
Yeah, so that just kind of helped to put Cosmos back in the narrative, particularly in like a technical and investor community. And yeah, and then you already mentioned some of the kind of premier launches that I think were really key. Like I was particularly kind of behind the scenes with Celestia and DYDX doing a lot of stuff with them. So that was really nice to see, just very professional, high profile launches, you know, both of which I would say went quite well. And there was a lot of like, the ecosystem is hanging on these kind of working out. So they really took a village to launch those protocols.
Cito, Steven, do you guys have anything to add on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you brought it up like kind of addressing a wider audience, and thanks for the kind words there. I mean, first off, I was super nervous when I got on the Crypto Banter. Like there were like 6,000 people like watching live, so there was a big audience. But yeah, I think, you know, the thing what I noticed is when I talk to like non-Cosmos native people is they don't care too much about like the details about the you know, the depths of Cosmos. And I think one challenge for cosmonauts, mostly, you know, what I see is that we sometimes get too much carried away from the technology, and I think that makes it so robust and resilient in the long term. But I think short term, crypto people just like flashy stuff, right? And I think you saw recently the meme coin season. You know, even in Cosmos now we have, I don't know, I lost count, but we have a lot of meme coins now in Cosmos as well. But yeah, I think, you know, we need to like maybe for 2024 kind of bridge a little bit more kind of the gap between the core technology and this excitement and fundamentalism that we have from the developer community, to kind of address also the retail audience, right? And I feel like now it's much stronger than last year when we talked. I think last year we all still also had major PTSD from the whole Terra stuff. But yeah, I feel like, you know, we need more of this. You know, we need to be more out there. We need to do stuff like other ecosystems are doing, like Solana, for instance. Solana has a program called Super Team, and I think that's something we can just literally apply for Cosmos, right? Super Team is basically a platform where Anybody can do kind of micro tasks, whether it's like translating stuff into different languages, whether it's hosting small meetups in your city, or even ordering pizza with friends. Like they literally have a pizza fund where you can get $200 and you can, get 10 people together and talk about Solana. Like that's what they're having. And I think that's a major success factor of Solana, which is obviously foundation backed, and they obviously have hundreds of millions to kind of fund these things. But I think something like that, like to kind of realign a little bit the community growth on a global scale. I also think, next year Cosmos should go on a bit of a tour, a global tour, where we have physical events around the world. I think we're kind of on track, right? Like Seb, you're doing stuff with Nibbler Summit. You also do kind of like these smaller meetups. And I think this is severely underrated and undervalued. We need more of this. We need to double down on this for next year, because other ecosystems are doing it. And if we're not doing it, those are in the end of the just onboarding funnels for investors, retail community, users, developers, right? And you really need to pick them up in their city, in their town, right? At their university, host workshops, get them, educated about the basics so that they can come in. Because that's also been a big learning for me in the past 3 years, kind of covering the ecosystem, talking to all the developers. It's like there's this strong core ecosystem of builders and teams that have been around for a long time. But for new builders, especially if they're not crypto native, they have a very hard time getting into Cosmos because there's just no one to talk to, right? There's not one organization that runs the show that helps people to get onboarded, to navigate. Oh, you're qualified for whatever XYZ. Getting funding is still kind of tough and challenging and complex and not as transparent and clear as in other ecosystems. So I think that's maybe one thing where Cosmos could really grow 10x faster next year if we had kind of this more aligned approach to how do we onboard new developers and just grow the retail community. So.
Yeah. On that note, I just saw Vitalik just posted an article, or I guess yesterday, which is make Ethereum cypherpunk again, which basically argues that Ethereum should go the other direction. I guess. I think I agree on the sentiment that Cosmos needs to be less nerd snipey and more attractive to regular users and like people that want to use DeFi, people that want to use bad kids, that want to like collect cool NFTs, etc. I feel like we're getting there, and I think I think there's like a couple of things that really help here. One, Osmosis I think is doing a great job at building an incredible experience around DeFi, and they want to push that even further with their whole like account abstraction push that Sunny announced at Cosmoverse. I'm like super excited about being able to use that, and I think that will allow a lot of people to come into the space. And then integrating with all of the great DeFi applications on Osmosis, whether that's Lavana or Margin, or I guess Mars isn't quite there anymore. At some point will be on Neutron, but I wonder if the other ecosystems, right, like Neutron, Kujira, and Injective, will also have this very user-friendly kind of like UX and experience-focused approach. So I think that will be like a big factor in terms of like bringing new users in. And yeah, Stargaze, bullish on Stargaze as well from this perspective, in terms of attracting people to utilize like some of the great NFTs there, and specifically like Bad Kids, I think we already mentioned this, but is a great sort of like cultural meme in the space. Are there any, like, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about, maybe get into the nitty gritty here a little bit, because like last year we didn't have the AZ yet, and we certainly didn't have replicated security. Those are now live. Now, there's been a little bit of, drama this year around the Cosmos Hub. specifically the recent drama around, Prop 858 and all that ensued after that. And I mentioned earlier that like the Atom price hasn't really budged a whole lot compared to some of the other coins in the ecosystem that like recently have really picked up. What I'd like to get a sense of what is all of your perspective on the hub, and is it out of the water or out of the woods in terms of some of the fears that perhaps we had in the ecosystem last year around Atom utility and like hub utility long term. What are your thoughts here?
So I kind of want to talk about the lasting the DeFi that leads into this. So as someone who sort of comes from EVM land, it has a large community that loves EVM sort of protocols and even does some Solana stuff. When I come over to IBC, it's to see like I expect to have similar experiences, and you don't. Like IBC protocols operate in different ways. So the sort of account abstraction thing we're talking about on Osmosis, the tech is phenomenal. The user experience is probably going to be suboptimal because people won't be familiar with it. It won't be super easy. One of the best things that happened for IBC this year, I think, was Squid Router. It made it so easy to come into Osmosis and know what you were doing. Before that, like you had to use Axelar, and sometimes you'd have to like convert to an Axelar token first, then go over and then convert back to something else, and that wasn't super intuitive. Squid Router has been phenomenal for my community, at least, because now they know, amazing. Okay, I can go to from Arbitrum to Osmosis directly. So easy, as opposed to like take Atom from a central exchange, bring it to your Kepler wallet, deposit it, convert it into something else. Like that was, maybe 2 years ago with Osmosis. So I think Osmosis has this really, really great potential to be effectively like just a real chain with a bunch of different protocols on it. You already see, Quasar is built on top of it. Levana is built on top of it. Hopefully Levana makes a comeback. Mars currently has a hub there. Umi's coming. So like we have this robust sort of chain now that people will be familiar with, people who operate on like Solana where all the apps exist, Arbitrum, Optimism, whatever it is. Then you have other chains that just like are sort of like struggling to gain like relevance because they're either a single protocol chain and no one wants to go to a chain for one protocol. Or maybe there's like 4 or 5 protocols. So this is also why I think Farm was talking about Injective being interesting. Injective is no longer going to be just like a perpdex chain. It's going to be this robust chain. They're going to have, Dojo Swap coming out and being like this real actual swapping mechanism. One of the things that drew people, at least me as a strategist, to IBC, and this is sort of like touching on your most recent question, was the arbitrage opportunity that came from the liquid stake derivatives that exist in IBC. So arbitraging ST Atom, arbitraging ST Osmo, arbitraging, the Q assets right now have phenomenal arbitrage opportunities. Though we don't know when unstaking is going to happen. We'll see. Supposed to be by the end of this quarter. They have 3 days to do it. Don't think that's going to happen, but hopefully Q1, right? So everything always gets pushed back and down the road in IBC world. And that's just DeFi. So arbitrage ability has been affected by like the halvening, because now there is this. Before, let's just say ST Atom was depegged by 2%, right? And you can arbitrage that, which means buy a 2% depeg and then unstake it. And it takes 24 to, it's taking 30 days right now because whatever. So you can arbitrage that over a month. That's 2 times 12. It's 24% APR. That wasn't super competitive against 20% APR. But now the arbitrage opportunity is super competitive against the base staking rate, which means these assets, these LSTs should start to see better pegs, better parity. If people are really smart, at least people should be arbitraging instead of holding, because now the opportunity is twice as good. So I do think like there's some tailwinds there. We should have better peg maintenance, which means less spurious liquidations on platforms like Umi and Mars, where people are depositing their LSTs and trying to leverage that up. It's a totally reasonable thing to do. It's a very, very popular strategy on Solana, a very popular strategy in EVM land, which is take your LST, collateralize it, borrow the like primitive for it. So deposit ST Atom, borrow Atom, convert, deposit, and loop that to get a leveraged staking yield. You can't really do that in IBC because the peg is just not reliable. And so hopefully this new incentives for arbitrage, and I think the hub is going to be depositing like $900,000 into ST Atom liquidity soon, or like $9 million. of SGM liquidity soon. Hopefully that will also help with the peg maintenance. But so yeah, I do think the halving has been good for peg maintenance, I guess, is like my short answer there, which should be good for other protocols and composability of these assets.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to comment on there. One is, I mean, something that I worked on for like a year plus was the liquid staking module, and I've actually been a little bit surprised it hasn't taken off more than it. You don't actually see as much liquid stake assets as I would have anticipated. I think this year you need to kind of like create some kind of DeFi feedback loop in order to actually like draw out liquid staked assets. I would expect that to happen more this year. I would hope that it would happen more this year. A big thing that I worked on this year was wallet support, like MetaMask support. I worked with basically all of the main Cosmos wallets to plug in the Skip API, which is basically like also covers Ethereum onboarding, Bitcoin onboarding, and like the Kepler swap, the Leap swap, the MetaMask swap is like Skip in the background. That is going to get like 10x better this year, hopefully. I mean, the reliability of IBC, the speed at which you can onboard from Ethereum and Bitcoin. I've also done a whole bunch of work on account abstraction and like chain abstraction stuff that is kind of in the pipeline in the SDK. So the type of account abstraction that you're talking about in Osmosis like should be available to every single chain. By the end of next year, we're kind of on a path so that like if you have assets somewhere, you'll be able to pay somewhere else, and you'll be able to just kind of instantly onboard deposit funds into an app. You don't have to like, you don't actually have to use something like Squid or whatever. Like you just start using an application, you draw assets in. So you just go to Osmosis, or you go to Mars, or you go to whatever, and then like you have assets somewhere, they're in your wallet, that you just start playing with it in the application. So that's kind of the experience that that I envision. That I think we have a very clear path towards, but it's going to be the better part of the year to roll that out.
And yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, I'm all for, and I'm really looking forward to having better UX around just being able to use tokens in a way that where you can use any sort of token in any sort of application, and the sort of swaps happen in the background, and users are not sort of confused about what tokens to use in what application. I am curious to get your thoughts on the whole like AZ Cosmos Hub. Well, I guess like state of AZ and Cosmos Hub. Like where do you feel things are heading there, and does the hub continue to remain relevant from here, or yeah?
I have no special authority here, so but I think how Atom wins is actually extremely clear. You basically pick the core elements of Atom 2 and just run with it. The main thing is that Atom doesn't need utility. It is just a meme coin, but it's a meme coin that is able to kind of judiciously deploy capital into different like DeFi communities, so that you induce demand, so that you have that same phenomenon that Stephen was talking about. Like you need Atom to be the base asset for the DeFi ecosystem. It's all that you need to do. and then just.
But how do we get there? I mean, this is a question for everyone. I mean, I had Sunny on recently, and he has this. I mean, he's I guess a strong proponent of this idea that Atom is a meme coin, and I think we all sort of agree here that like Atom is the meme coin of the Cosmos ecosystem, and the meme that the meme that it's carrying is this idea of like strong governance and very decentralized governance. And like Sunny was on the podcast and he was saying, okay, well, what we need to do is we need to run with this to the extent that like ETH ran with ETH's money, and like the Atom governance backed money meme is something the entire ecosystem needs to get behind and sort of like shill to the entire world, so that Atom can become a really strong capital asset as collateral in all of DeFi, and furthermore, like differentiate itself from other sort of like ecosystem platforms, right? Like really be really play into that governance-backed money aspect in order to properly differentiate itself from Ethereum and other things. Because right now, I mean, replicated security, like all these sort of features are sort of like replicating what other ecosystems and say things like Eigenlayer, et cetera, are doing. So like as an ecosystem, how do we really push this narrative forward and make it so strong that like Atom pops off, as we all would love it to?
Atom Wars concept that Zaki put out is approximately correct. Basically, DeFi protocols want Atom liquidity. I talked to projects all day, and they actually want to import Atom into their platform. They just don't have a mechanism to do it. So you need to create that marketplace. If it were me, I would mint a shit ton of Atom and put it into the community pool that can be used to deploy, but that was highly unpopular. What is the superpower of governance, like of a governed money, is that you can do deficit spending. Like you can actually instrumentalize your monetary policy to take risk, and that's something that seems to be incomprehensible to most Atom holders, to be honest.
I think I can talk to this from like a retail perspective, and I actually don't. So I know like at Cosmoverse, Seb, you and I talked, and you came away like super bullish on AEZ, and then I kind of came away kind of bearish on AEZ. But then I think within the last 30 days, you've seen the Neutron narrative like kick in and actually become something. And so like to go back to what Stephen was talking about earlier, you have all these like L1s out there that don't have any traction because there's nothing built on top of them. There's nothing you can do with it. There's nothing like exciting to play with, or there's no like exciting airdrops to farm or whatever it is. So I think Atom's big narrative should be Neutron, and then Noble USDC, who's already brought like $65 million into the ecosystem in the last 30 days.
Huge.
And then Stride, who has also just been like absolutely killing it. So I hate to disagree with Sunny because he's someone who I respect a lot and think is much smarter than I am. But I think that from a retail perspective, the narrative should be like, look at all these incredible things that are being built in the Atom economic zone. Look who's backing Neutron. Look at the success of Circle backing Noble. And also the success that Stride's done already. And so I think the narrative is, what are the exciting things being built in the AEZ that people can actually touch and play with in 2024?
I think I agree with that. I think the AEZ is still going to be a big narrative and a big part. I think landing the Noble kind of migration and like pushing that over the finish line is going to be very important for Atom to succeed. But like I say, also I think Neutron is super strong, Stride is extremely strong. And that also means both their teams are aligned with Atom, right? And it's also in their interest that Atom succeeds and is secure, which also means it has a higher market cap, right? I also think to Sam's point with the mint, I think, Atom Treasury got a generous NTRN airdrop, which is, I think, worth currently around 4 million atoms, so around $45 million US or something crazy like that. So I think that was nice. I also think, there's a lot of proposals that passed with the P-Stick team, and also the Osmosis kind of liquidity that was given out for DeFi. So fostering Atom's role as interchain capital. I think what you guys are building at TimeWave, and maybe you can share some alpha there. Happy to learn. I think that's going to also be a key element for Atom. But I think so. That's, I think, like on the fundamental side and the AZ. And I think another side is kind of the whole tokenomics stuff, right? And I think when the proposal passed, 848, I think it was, the Atom halving proposal, you literally saw, like, on the minute when it passed, there was like a 5-6% or 10% pump in Atom, right? And you don't usually see that, but it means, like, it kind of did something. I mean, some people also exited; they didn't like that, but also it kind of brought in a new kind of wave of people. And I think there's probably going to be more proposals. Maybe like removing the floor, I think is the next one, and making the inflation change rate, making that faster, so the inflation can adjust faster. And then also Effort Capital's proposals he's been working on. I think those are coming up next. We already saw the Atom Alignment Treasury proposal coming up, and much more that would generate revenue for Atom. I think that's also going to be a big driver. But those are like pumpamentals, right? Those are like, we need to get inflation down. We need to increase on-chain revenue. And I think that's also what retail people like, right? Like, we want to get away from inflationary incentives and more towards this real yield accrual. And I think in a bear market, you haven't really seen anything. Neutron Stride, they kind of launched in a bear market. So that was not, I think we haven't really started yet. I think it's just starting now. And we're going to see also how these economic models are being refined. I also think this is a dynamic and moving process, right? If you look at, for example, Polkadot, they had their parachain slot auction model, which they're now abandoning and turning into this core time sales model. Also, their Canary network thesis, I think, earlier we talked about how the bear market has proven Cosmos, the app chain thesis and everything. And I think for other ecosystems, they have more fundamental issues to kind of overwork and kind of rebuild their kind of whole assumptions that they're built on. And I think in Cosmos, you have the opposite. It's more about figuring out economics. But I think Atom specifically is in a position where it's this leaderless token, but it still has survived the bear market. If you think back 2018-19 in that bear market, you had all the promising L1s like EOS, NEM, NEO, right? And in the bear market, it just faded away, right? They're kind of irrelevant right now. Like, they're on page 2 on CoinGecko. Atom is still a top 30 coin. I think that's not bad. So I think, Atom is still going to be around. And like Sunny's saying, I think this governance money, I think we just need a better word for it. I think governance is not as kind of attractive as a word, So we need something more flashy, We need something that sticks more, like ultrasound money on Ethereum. We need something like that. We just need to come up with something. So that's all.
I mean, if we can come up with something, I'll pump that narrative all the way to the bank with you, man. We just need to do what the bankless guys did. Just like pump that narrative until Atom pumps with it.
This makes me think of like the mid curve meme. You have like left curve, right curve, and mid curve. The left curve meme, which is like, me for the most part when I'm looking at just narratives. Like, what is Atom? Okay, Atom is the Cosmos token. Cosmos, TIA did really good. Osmosis is big. TVL is growing. Okay, that's why Atom goes up, right? It's as simple as that. I say Atom is Cosmos. Is Cosmos doing good or is Cosmos doing bad? Cosmos is doing good. Oh, cool. I want to buy Atom because Atom is Cosmos. Like, it's very, very left curve. But I imagine most of retail, like, that's their thinking. They're not thinking, well, what? And if they are, they're probably like mid curving it, because like the right curve is like looking at governance, following proposals, really understanding the tokenomics. Where is the money moving to? What's the next best tech? And like, that's such a small portion of people. Really, at that, on the right curve, you're probably having personal conversations with institutional investors and things like that. So I think left curve is just like Atom is Cosmos. How is Cosmos doing? And like make people think that Cosmos is doing good. Injective, big new chain coming. Apps, airdrop farming, Miles Dusher. I hopefully I'm saying his last name right. He's actually a really great guy. He's been really helpful to me when I lost my Twitter account. But Miles did a great post on like the injective airdrop, the Tia airdrop. We have recently we had Taiki. I love Taiki Maeda. He's a big fan of him. Great guy. Cito, you talked to him. Yeah, you talked to him recently. So Taiki is like, he's coming into IBC. Why is he coming into IBC? What has interested this guy who's always been an EVM farmer to come into IBC when he like thought IBC was effectively dead? It's airdrop farming. It's Celestia. It's this whole narrative of like, well, okay, IBC is the airdrop ecosystem. It's where you go and you stake and like good things happen, right? So like that's a very, very hey Taiki, you're here. It's a very, very basic narrative that's attractive. So like I think we need these basic, attractive, easy to digest narratives that we can just like pump out, and that'll be what attracts retail. If you want to attract like larger, more nuanced institutional investors, go far right curve, get a little bit fancier, talk about governance proposals, talk about this governance backed money, and then I think that's the way to go. That's just my
Atom is the airdrop money of Cosmos. That's what it is.
Airdrop backed money.
Yeah. By real airdrops. But I mean, I also think like it kind of is, right? And like until now, I mean, all these communities, that's always also been the kind of the role of Atom, right? Is bootstrapping new communities and new token holder bases, right? Osmo, Juno, Stars, more recently Tia. Now we, for staking Tia, we get more airdrops. I think the Dimension airdrop is also going to go for Atom stakers and for Tia stakers. So it's like this never stops. And Cosmos as this app chain ecosystem, there's always going to be new chains, always going to be new tokens. And who do you give it to them? Who do you give your new token to? If you want to capture the broader general Cosmos audience, right? Because I think you also see like most of these app chains out there, they're like starting to have their own flavors, their own community vibe. But Atom is kind of this neutral, maybe not like fully credibly neutral, but I think sufficiently neutral chain in Cosmos that's kind of there to provide services to other chains in Cosmos and not to dominate one specific niche or a category. So yeah, I think that airdrop narrative is still big in 2024.
I mean, if you're bullish on the airdrop narrative, I'm not. But if you are, like, the community needs to do some work to convince people who are going to be performing airdrops that they should be airdropping to liquid staked Atom holders, because that is not the norm right now. And basically Cosmos DeFi and receiving an airdrop are in competition with one another. So we're not kind of at the correct market structure right now to achieve both.
But Stride is working on this. I had a call with them earlier this week, and they were saying like they're really pushing to get like that first big airdrop to like ST Atom or ST Osmo holders, because once they have foot in the door, once they have like precedent, that tells other airdrop holders, hey, this is the way to do it, and for a good reason. So I want to see like the very first, very successful ST Atom DeFi airdrop happen, and then I think like we'll start seeing this pick up momentum. This will breathe new life into LST DeFi, which is a large portion of DeFi, especially in like IBC land where everything has a liquid stake derivative. So fingers crossed on that. We have Milk Tia. I would love to see Milk Tia in some way benefit from airdrops, because Tia is like this giant of airdrop assumptions. Same thing with STDYDX coming out. So yeah, Sam, I couldn't agree more.
I think NTRN was given to ST Atom holders, right? Neutron. They did an airdrop.
Typically what happens is they will give it to they'll do like a proportional thing based on the amount of capital staked. And if they do that and actually deliver it to one of the liquid staking addresses, then Stride can like redistribute it. But oftentimes, basically ST Atom holders will get the short stick because they have like a single address. So it really depends on how the airdrop is constructed, and so yeah, there needs to be more socialization of like how to actually incentivize liquid staked asset holders who are really like the more active community. If you want users, these are kind of at the leading edge here.
Yeah, this is a huge issue. The question that Jay Ald asked, which is how do you determine who should get an airdrop for having an LST? You can't just like airdrop to random LST holders, because at any point in time, people could try to game that system. So my assumption is you'd want to have it like other DeFi ecosystems where there's like either a de facto or explicit point system where you're measuring some sort of user interactions with the chain, user interactions with the token, user interactions with DeFi protocols to see, okay, this person has shown like either like good faith actions with the token. They've been LPing it for a month. They've been like collateralizing it on Mars or on Umi. They've been doing things with it for X amount of time or in X amount of ways or for with X amount of volume. They should qualify for this airdrop. It really can't just be they have the token at this specific snapshot, let's throw them a bunch of money. Because that can be kind of dangerous in gamed and not really sort of the spirit of what we're looking for with people participating in like the security of the blockchains and governance.
Yeah, I think we need better tools to do this too, right? I mean, I think one of the things that I've seen people trying to build, and with varying degrees of success, is a sort of CRM type system for blockchain addresses, right? Where you can look at addresses on a chain. You can see which users have been performing like such and such actions, whether that's participating in governance, participating in DeFi. And then have sort of metrics to allocate airdrops. And I think like if we had better tools to do that, it would make it easier for new protocols to like issue airdrops based on the criteria and the kind of like types of user actions that they want to reward by doing the airdrop. So what opportunities are big things? Well, I guess maybe this is something we haven't talked about yet, but like, where are the biggest gaps in areas of the ecosystem that we need to improve? Like, where did the Cosmos ecosystem sort of fall short last year, and where are you hoping that they improve, that we improve over the next 12 months?
Oh, I'm mute. Yeah, I can go first. I think we talked earlier a bit about UX. I think that's one thing where Cosmos can still do a lot better. I think people that don't know what IBC is, they get completely lost with like going back and forth from different chains, and like it's just too hard for like people that are not used to it. I think also recently we saw with this whole Bad Kids theme going viral, and people in Solana now also trying out Kepler for the first time and trying to get their Bad Kids NFT. I think, yeah, this has shown that like there's still a lot of upside, and it's for us cosmonauts, I think it's easy because we're used to it for a long time. But yeah, stuff like IBC Fun and Squid, I think that's definitely very, very helpful to just not shock people when they interact for the first time with Cosmos. So I think that's the first one, UX, and there's a lot of upside still. Like I said earlier, I think, for me, obviously I'm very on the community side and content, and I believe a lot in like physical events. I think, we've been traveling for the past couple of years, obviously with Cosmoverse, but also around the world. And I've always been traveling my life, but I think now, since I'm, doing Cosmoverse and everything, more so than ever, I try to see like, what crypto projects are mostly known in the city that I'm in right now, right? And like we're, for example, in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and people don't know about Cosmos. We were in Thailand, we were in Indonesia, like Southeast Asia as a whole region. That's a massive opportunity, but there's barely any initiatives for onboarding developers, talent, right? And every place is just different, right? There's different cultures, different languages, different levels of how involved are they, how much have they engaged with crypto, what's kind of their level where they're at, right? There's crypto hubs and there's also crypto greenfields. Argentina, one of the biggest, most important crypto markets right now. Polkadot is really big there. Cosmos not yet, right? There's a couple of cosmonauts, but we need to like push hard on that. In the US, I think there's a couple of good hubs. I think in New York, there's a couple teams and people, and they meet up frequently. But I think for 2024, it's also kind of my mission, both in the virtual world, like with content, trying to branch out, do more collaborations and content with other more generic kind of content creators, but also just in the physical world, really like catering it to a local audience. I think that's a big puzzle on how we can grow Cosmos next year.
Yeah, you're doing a fantastic job there. I mean, I think like, Cosmoverse as a conference attracts admittedly like more of the developer and sort of insider crowd, although there are a lot, I met like lots of people at Cosmoverse that were maybe not so technical or not so much in the weeds. But yeah, meetups. I think meetups is like highly underrated, and also is a lot of work, right? Like it's a lot of work to put on an event, but like to put on meetups. And here's the thing: like if you look at say Celestia or some other ecosystems, like I mean Celestia, they're really encouraging members of the community to host meetups. Like we just had a Celestia meetup here in Paris. Some of it was kind of funded, or Celestia helped out with a bit of the expenses for that, but and I think they sent some swag or whatever. But really, it's the community that's putting on these meetups and organically putting on the meetups. Cosmos doesn't have that. Cosmos doesn't have the ICF or maybe like AADAO, at least as far as I know, funding or helping folks in a systemic way, right? In a sort of like structured way. I know that they give out grants and stuff like that, but like in a more systemic way to organize meetups. And I think if we had that, people would be encouraged and feel empowered to organize meetups everywhere. We wouldn't have to have like Cito organizing all of them. He's you got content to produce too.
We're gonna fix it this year. We have a plan.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, this is something you could do, right? I mean, you could also sort of help and empower people to organize meetups, right, with the reach that you have.
Yeah. No, I think for us, yeah. Sam, sorry.
Just very quickly, Cosmos doesn't have like a front door, which I think is a big issue.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know where to go. You don't know where to start. And I don't know. I think some focal point that's just like literally here's how to bridge from like Ethereum or Solana or Bitcoin or whatever. Just like here's how you get in. Here's like the main apps. Not all of them, just like a couple to get you started. Download a wallet. They're just the absolute basics. There's like no place to access this information. You have to like search for it individually, or like just know something already in order to kind of bootstrap into the system.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a video like this week or next week, unless Taiki's already gonna do it, or Cito. Where's Liam? This was just his thing back in the day. But yeah, like this should be easy. An intro to IBC, an intro to Cosmos, like how to onboard into Kepler, how to open up an LP in Osmosis, how to put a position in a money market, and then how to stake some things to participate in airdrops. Like I think like those basic things should be enough for most people to start getting active and understand, what you're doing. Maybe like how to do some IBC movement between chains as well.
That's a great idea. I mean, if you guys do one, I'll do one as well. That way we cover more SEO traffic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I mean, self-referential. And for other parts, go check out.
Yeah. If you want to know how to, send your tokens over to Levana, watch this video. No, I mean, I think these are all great points. Farmer, you've been quiet for a while. Do you have anything to
Yeah,
out of here?
I mean, I think everything you all said was spot on. And I onboard a lot of friends who have been trading crypto for a long time, who are like not chain native, to like start staking and start understanding DeFi. And everybody's nervous, everybody's scared, everyone thinks they're going to lose their funds. So like the message that I would like to see come out is it's Cosmos. Transactions are free. You can put $25 on chain and I can show you how to like stake 30 protocols and enter 25 DeFi positions. You know, it's like, it doesn't take, it's not like EVM or AVAX where like everything you do, you know, you mess up and it's a $200 transaction. It's like everything in Cosmos is free. Download a wallet, fund it with $50 and just start clicking buttons. And it's like, you've got nothing to lose. You can learn everything you need to learn. And then, you know, go back and watch all the old Cito videos and Liam videos. And, you know, and as well as your Sebs, it's like, there's tutorials everywhere. There's tons to learn and tons to do. And I know like 42 is supposed to be coming out this week. It's supposed to be sort of this like dashboard for all of Cosmos. So like maybe that'll take off and be that Sam is talking about. But even if it's not, someone else is going to. So that's my perspective. I think the message should be it's free to use. Like go and try it. You know.
Yeah, Sam. Like maybe you have some insights here, but you know, when you were saying that like Cosmos doesn't have a front door, I think this also touches on Cito's point from earlier around like Solana and how community awareness and business development is sort of, you know, centralized in an entity. And I think like Avalanche is like another good example here. And this is something we've talked about here on the podcast as well, right? It's like there is no front door for Cosmos. There is no one entity that, you know, does outward facing business development, helps sort of shepherd people around the ecosystem and makes introductions. And like when the ICF went through, and I guess it's still going some internal restructuring, you know, I had Brian on the podcast and we talked about like the role that the ICF could play here. And I think that, you know, the ambition there and the idea was for the ICF to play a little bit more of an active role here. So far, I don't think that's been the case, or at least I think they're still sort of trying to figure that out. Do you think that you know, you spent a lot of time there. Do you think that the ICF is well positioned to play this role, or, you know, should it be another entity or or should it be more decentralized by having like different entry points that, you know, maybe handle business development or grant funding or, you know, other aspects that people might be interested in?
Yeah, I don't have super high hopes for the ICF being like a communications leader. I think it's going to continue to like fund some of the core development and little else, to be honest. Just the way that the Cosmos ecosystem is structured, just looks a lot different. And we should kind of use that. We should play to our strengths. Like the fact that there's no front door means that somebody can make the front door. And that can be an incredibly valuable property. There's money to be made there. You can speak to a specific audience. Like, I think Project Like 42 could speak to a very sophisticated DeFi audience that wants to get involved and have kind of an aggregation over a lot of different protocols. Cito, you know, you speak to a very different audience that's like, that is maybe more kind of organic retail that, you know, in Southeast Asia or Argentina. Like these are like captive markets that like don't have a point of entry, and so people can build that. I think there's a lot that can be done there. Yeah, I also think that there can potentially be many front doors because like there isn't a singular source of truth. So that that could be a kind of multiplier effect if it's actually like leveraged properly.
I also don't think that the ICF necessarily needs to become like a communications leader. I think they just need to like allocate funding a bit more wisely, I guess, and more transparent. But I think also they're working on it, and I think Brian is doing the best he can. So yeah, let's see. I don't know. I don't think we should bet everything on the ICF fixing everything, but I think they can definitely help a lot because they have $300 million. But yeah, I think building front doors, I think is great because once you're in Cosmos, I think this is very unique to Cosmos. I think there's a very warm welcome, right? And there are so many people that are willing to help. I remember when I got into Cosmos, Jack Zempolin actually kind of, went on a call with me, and I had no followers back then, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So he kind of took the time and just walked me through and explained me what is IBC. That was before IBC went live. And I felt like this is crazy. Like if I made a tweet about, I don't know, Cardano or Polkadot, I don't think a core engineer would reach out to me and, offer to kind of walk me through. And so I think what we really just need to build is this front door. Just leave it open and people will come in. And then there's going to be a lot of people that will help, right? There's going to be a lot more content creators, right? Like Seb, yourself, and Steven, and what I do, and what many others are doing. And I hope we will have a lot more content creators in the next bull run, because that really, really helps. I also see Steven is onboarding right now, someone in the chat. But if you can see it, right? Like people are asking for tutorials, like hands-on stuff, because maybe they heard something about Cosmos on Twitter or on YouTube, but now what? Like, how do you get started, right? And I think that counts both for retail community members and investors or users, as well as for developers and actual builders, right? They also need to be guided and directed to talk to the right people. And I think that's really the missing piece, because once you're in, I don't think there's a way out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things that I see coming is, well, that Cosmos becomes the Cosmos narrative, right? The Cosmos how do I put this? Yeah, I think that the Cosmos stack will continue to spread in all of the ecosystem, right? Whether that's Celestia or like EigenLayer. Like I'm very much looking forward to having like a Cosmos SDK backed by restaking. IBC, all these technologies are going to continue to be super relevant. And Sam, like this is something you guys talked about on the Blockworks episode, but I think like Cosmos, the brand, that you don't need to associate to Cosmos, the brand, right? And one analogy I often use is Linux. Linux is a really powerful brand. Lots of operating systems, Linux distributions, have chosen to kind of, be aligned with that brand. But a lot of operating systems also use the Linux stack are absolutely not aligned with that brand, like Apple, Android, most of the software and like TVs and embedded devices that use Linux don't align with that brand necessarily. And I think with Cosmos, we're going to start seeing that also play out, where the Cosmos brand will be mostly aligned with like the Cosmos Hub, the Atom Economic Zone, and chains and applications that drive value to Atom or highly associated to Atom. And then other applications are going to be using Cosmos stack, the Cosmos technology, the Cosmos stack, IBC, Cosmos SDK, Cosmosm, etc., but not necessarily aligning with the brand. And that's okay. And we still that's still a win for this technology, and it's still a win for users of DeFi that get to use tech that really works, that's easy to use, that is fast, that's cheap, right? With like low transaction fees, etc. So that's something that I see coming, and that with regards to the interchain narrative, I think is something we should all keep in mind.
Yeah, I think this is something that Jack Zampolin talks about all the time, is that, the end game for Cosmos and IBC is that everything is abstracted away and you're using like a beautiful Web 2 front end, and you have no idea that crypto is even happening in the background. And that's how mainstream adoption happens. So that's my perspective as well. I think Cosmos and the way it's designed and the way the whole stack is designed is more set up for that than any other ecosystem. Is that the interoperability, the speed of transactions, the finality time. These are things that can be abstracted away in the background, and then you're just left with like a nice Web 2 experience and have no idea you're even using crypto.
I think we can all stand behind that idea. So yeah, before we wrap up here, any final thoughts y'all want to share before we close it up for this year?
Yeah, I think, Cosmos has survived the bear market. I think we can capture that. I think we're actually coming out very, very strong of this bear market. For those that have been at events this year or even at Cosmoverse, we had the highest attendance this year. I think it was a bit of a different vibe. It was, I think, more like builders driven, and a lot of workshops, a lot of sessions and meetings. We also got Sunny Bullish on Atom again, so that's also a big win. I think overall, Cosmos coming out strong. I think next year is going to be a lot of big narratives around Cosmos, around IBC branching out into Solana, into Ethereum. I think Celestia is going to have its season also with airdrops. There's going to be a lot of exciting projects launching, Eclipse, Movement, Dimension, a lot more than that. But those are big ones. Then, I think there's also big launches. I think Saga is going to be one that can also maybe capture some of the gaming kind of narrative, because that's totally underserved right now in Cosmos. Also very bullish on what Passage is building. I think that fits into what Farmer just said. It's like Passage, they're building these virtual worlds, and people don't really actually know they're interacting with anything Cosmos, crypto, blockchain, right? It's just like something that people can use that's fun, right? Also the Strange Clan game and those kind of things. I think Babylon is going to be very interesting as well. Kind of this Bitcoin staking and leveraging Bitcoin security to secure other chains as well. And Barachain, I think, is also going to be a big driver to drive more awareness and drag more developers into Cosmos. So I think those are the three big launches I'm looking forward to. I think there's going to be a big airdrop season next year as well. I think Sam is bearish on airdrops. I'm very bullish on airdrops. But I think it's going to be very, very, we had a big airdrop season, I think, in the last cycle, like 2021. But I think this was just a teaser. That was just test nets. I think next year, airdrops, we're going to go on mainnet. There's going to be a lot of big airdrops. So I think that's also going to be a big catalyst. I think a lot of OG Cosmos chains are also going to come back, like a cash network that's not necessarily like a finance use case, but Stargaze, NFTs. I mean, the whole ecosystem, there's so much traction right now, and I think it's all boiling up for a promising 2024, which all, of course, depends on macro and how is Bitcoin performing. Is the ETF going to go through, or are they rugging us last minute? Who knows? There's a lot of stuff that we can't predict, but overall, I'm bullish. I'm always bullish, that. So that's my final words.
Long term, it's usually better to be bullish than bearish, almost under every time frame. Should we answer John's question? I think it's kind of a good one. He says, name an IBC chain that you think has the most upside potential from where it sits today. Steve, would that be like Barachain for you? What do you think? I mean, it doesn't even sit today, I guess. So it's
I think it should be one that's currently live. So I don't know. I mean, I would say one that's live, I think that's really undervalued. And once Cosmos pops in front of everyone's eyeballs, I think people are going to look for, okay, what's the OpenSea in Cosmos? What's the big NFT marketplace? So I think Stargaze is still really undervalued right now. Obviously not giving financial advice, so don't want people to ape in. But I think Stargaze is really a project, like a prime Cosmos example. Strong team, core cosmonauts, been around for many years, survived the bear market, strong culture, strong community, bad kids NFTs. They're just killing it left and right. So I think Stargaze would be one. But there's
Stargaze, like the hub should just buy Stargaze, and Stargaze should become part of AZ. I think that would be a huge win for Stargaze.
Farmer, what do you think? I know you're like a narrative type thinker.
I think as far as undervalued, unknown. I like OmniFlix and Passage. I think would be like my sleepers for. I think like most of the retail investing and most of the people I interact with on Twitter are either in Europe or the US. And I don't think people are understanding how many people are devouring content in South Asia. And so I think like as OmniFlix moves into those markets, it could just onboard millions and millions of users and billions of users. So I'm pretty stoked on those.
Very bullish.
Sam, what do you think?
I mean, I'm pretty much the worst at predicting these things, but like, there's a huge opportunity for Atom. Like, it is not really recovered fully. Major investors, I think, have been kind of exiting for quite a while now, and that's like pretty much dissipated. So, if Atom can kind of get its shit together, there's like a massive opportunity there.
Agreed.
So much stuff that I'm excited for, though. I'm working with a bunch of projects that are not out yet, that I think are just, really like big unlocks for the ecosystem. Babylon, I think, is going to be really interesting to kind of like access the Bitcoin ecosystem in a new way. I'm very excited for privacy projects, Penumbra and Namada, just highly ideologically aligned with what they're building. It's kind of where my head's at.
I'm gonna say Wawa. I think Wawa's gonna pump, and it's gonna become huge, bigger than Bonk, bigger than Dogecoin. Woof
I
woof,
think, like,
all the
there's,
way.
like, literally, like when Cosmos starts flying, like as an ecosystem, and whether that's Atom or Tia or Say or whatever that are like just doing crazy run-ups, people are gonna ask, okay, what's the meme coin in Cosmos? Like, you need to ape in, right? Like Bonk did for Solana. So I think, Huawei is also an interesting one. I also think what's important is to always remember, like, the crypto tide always rises with every cycle, right? And I think last cycle that it peaked out at like 3 trillion or something total market cap.
Yep.
I think next cycle peak we could reach 10 to 12 trillion maybe, or even more than that. So the valuations always get more like higher and higher, right? And more absurd that you can imagine right now. So I think there's a lot of opportunities right now. I think now is a great time to position yourself for the next bull run. Obviously, know what you're buying, do your research, don't blindly ape into stuff you don't know what it does, what it is. But I think now it's kind of this pre-bull run. We're still coming out of the woods. I think if you look at the prices, I mean, even Solana is still down like 60-70% from the all-time highs, right? So it's still far away from all-time highs. Besides Injective, they just do their own thing, but the rest is still very, very, very far away. And once we start crossing that line into price discovery, then it's like the real bull run that starts. I think we haven't seen anything yet. So
we ain't seen nothing yet. Dun, dun. I don't know if you guys know that song. All right, well, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. It's been really fun. I think we've got lots of different perspectives here that our audience will appreciate, and hopefully get everybody bullish for 2024. I forgot what year I was in for a second there. For 2024, get everybody really, really bullish on the interchain. Steven, you're muted.
Sorry, I was gonna say no one talked about Somalia or Quasar. At least gotta throw like some credit to the two biggest vault chains in IBC.
Absolutely, yeah, great products. Also, I think huge catalysts for bringing people into crypto and understanding LPing, or at least like being able to leverage LPing in a much more streamlined and user-friendly way. Shout out to those two teams. Great, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great New Year's. Stay safe, and we'll see you next year. Thanks, everyone.
thank you, sir.